Some other places we can look, we can go into trying to figure out if there are new files or if there are new processes within a specific time frame. Now, this can be a little bit ugly from the standpoint of if I go out and I say, give me all the new files on a system, then I may get a ridiculous number of results. If I ask for all the new processes on a system, I might get a ridiculous number of results. However, this will give me the opportunity to show you a way to do some process of elimination. So let's start looking for processes that may have been new. In this case, I can say name. And then I can simply say exists. Now that might not be enough. I mean, that's going to show me all of the information where a process was created. So let's be a little bit more specific. How about event type? Now event type is an enum. And I want to find all of the process creation events. If I find all the process creation events within the last 24 hours on the various systems, this could be useful. Now, that gave me 1,722 different processes. I can look here, that goes across three different machines. We've got desktop 49, DV example 1223, and DV example 1224. Now, we may need to limit this down a little bit. Let's, first of all, look at only one machine. So I'm going to clear off all of my checkboxes and check off only DV1223. So that brings me down to 867 results. Again, more results than really I need to have, but getting better. We're down, we've gotten rid of over 1,000 different results. So the next question is, all right, well, do we have a time frame? If we do, we could then adjust the time frame. Maybe we know that the server has been running for a long period of time, or the system has been running for a long period of time, and the new processes will be few and far between if we don't look way back in time. Unfortunately, this is a desktop machine in this case, and so it was booted and shut down and then booted again multiple times in the last 48 hours. So there's a good chance that a lot of the processes we're looking at are common processes that start and stop during the boot. And that's perfectly fine. We can start eliminating things that we know are probably okay. So, for example, if I start looking down through the process names, I know what NGen does, so we're not going to use this. I'm going to check that one off. I know what SVC host is. I'm okay with Compactel runner, so I'm going to check those off. Services.exe is fine. I don't need to worry about that one. Got a couple of commands here, and this really right off the bat tells you what's going on, because here we've got that this command.exe is related to a threat. This is kind of cheating in this case, because what's happened is the AI has already examined and found where that there is malicious software going on the box, which is fine, but you may or may not get this. If you do get this, if you could just check this off and then say, show me all the ones that actually are related to a malicious action, then your life is easy. But let's assume that we can't do that for now. SVC host, I might have checked that one off already, doesn't matter. Mo user core worker, this has to do with Microsoft. I know I've already checked that out. Trusted installer I know is okay. The ODBE broker is okay. PowerShell you might want to take a look at, because anytime you see new PowerShell stuff, unless you're running PowerShell on the system on any given moment, you might want to check out what's going on. Search indexer is okay. And of course, we've got GANCrab, WinMic, GANCrab, and commands. And all of these, I would stop what I was doing right now, and I would look at these immediately. So, because we know that those are bad news. But if it wasn't that easy to find, what you would do is, after you selected a few things, hit the ellipsis and say exclude selected values. And it updates my query to get rid of the processes that I know are okay. So I'll run that. Now, keep in mind what I've just done. Before, I had selected a specific machine, so I'd already gotten it down pretty low. Now I've gotten rid of all of those processes, but when I reran the query, it unfiltered my results. So I'm still looking at 3 different machines. If I wanted to make the machine that I'm looking for permanent, all I've got to do is select this machine, 1, 2, 2, 3, and then instead of excluding that one, I want to add that value. So now notice that I am looking for process creation events. I don't care about these processes because I know they're good. And I only want to look on the endpoint DV example 1, 2, 2, 3. So I'm expanding my query as I go. And I'm not even really typing. I'm just searching. So now I'm down to 418 events. And so I'll repeat this process as I go down through and look at the various events that are here until I find events that I don't recognize. When I find that would be interesting. So there's more I don't care about. Google Update, we can get rid of all those. Be careful about eliminating explorer.exe. You can do it, but it is going to be the source of a bunch of things. So that sometimes can shoot you in the foot. Win logons are nice because you can see who's logging in, but we're going to get rid of it for now. And the SPP object, we know about that, and VM tools we don't care about. So again, I can do this again. And I can continue to limit the processes until I finally come down to a list of processes that is short enough. 321 isn't too many. That I can find something that is weird. Sometimes divisibility does get hung up and you need to run the query again. There we go. So now, obviously, we're getting down to what's things that we've got definite problems with. Here we've got a win word that's associated with a threat. We've got this YW thing, which is associated with a threat. We've got command associated with a threat. Now, assuming the threat was benign enough or sneaky enough to get past our AI, then this would still be false. But I would certainly be wondering about a process called YWSRG. You can see what the command line is actually doing, the who am I groups. What is FOD helper? So for those of you who have been with me for our other videos, you know that the FOD helper is what we utilize with Metasploit to attack this machine. We have PowerShell here, and it's actually showing us the PowerShell commands. If you go down and you look far enough into this, you will also see that there are WinMic commands, and the WinMic commands will talk about deleting shadow copies and things like that. So clearly we have been able to locate processes that we are very concerned about. And I'm not going to belabor the process of this, but what you of course would do is once you find something you are concerned about or interested in, you come over here to the source process storyline ID, you check that baby off, You come down here and say create new query from selected values, and then I get rid of the source process. This is just my process, the way I do things, and then search out this process ID, this storyline, excuse me. And now the storyline in this case is too big. We're looking at a GAN crab infection. It came back very, very rapidly. I have max results of over 2,000, so I'm going to pump this up to 20,000 so I don't hit my head. Now, here's where things get to be a little bit more interesting. Now I am looking at a storyline ID. So I'm looking at a very specific thing. These are all of the events that happened in and around this particular storyline. The problem is now I have hit my head on the max number of results. What that means is there's going to be more results than I can have listed, which means I'm going to be missing data about what's happening here. When this occurs, the best thing to do is actually to split up your queries. And you can do that very easily by looking across here and seeing which of these items has the most items in it. And it doesn't take long to figure out that it's files with 16,363 events. This is by far the fattest of all of the events that are out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate the files from this one, from one query, and then I'm going to make it only files in another query. So if I did it this way, I clicked on the checkbox here and said exclude selected values. Now I'm going to eliminate all of these file objects when I run this again. It makes sense that the file objects are the ones that are eating up a lot of the space because this is GAN crab, it's ransomware. So there's a lot of file activity that occurs. So much so that you probably don't even really much care about it because you know it went through and it encrypted every file in the system. You can still go look at that information. I'll show you how to do that next. But in this case, we've eliminated all of that noise. And now we're down to the 3,000 events that actually have to do with the particular software. And so we can look at the processes. We can look at the indicators, of which there are many. We can look at the network actions and all the other parts of this. This moves off into the idea of finding root cause and doing a deep investigation of this particular piece of malware. But the point that I'm trying to get to is we were able to start with the fact that I'm looking for new processes or new files and come to a place where I'm looking at an actual piece of malicious content. So we did that with processes in this case. I can do the same thing with files. I can do, instead of saying, starting out with new processes, I can say event type equals file creation. And I can start this process from this point as well. Everything pretty much goes the same way. This is every new file that was created. And I mean, lo and behold, we came up with immediately something that I would want to look at and have get more information about. And so I'm not going to go through the process again of, of course, I go over here to the source storyline, which of course is pretty much the same storyline. In this case, I think we're looking at this is 1224. So this is the GAN crab running on 1224. If we actually eliminate this and go to just 1223, GAN crab will show up there as well. Eventually, it's there. It doesn't show up immediately on this case. I could actually do a file and say the path includes GAN crab. but it would be the same. In that case, I would have come back to the same storyline, the E2, 8A, so on and so forth. So again, another way to come back to finding malware is to start out with looking at what all the new processes or all the new files are, and then work your way in that way when you find interesting things.